Will the Water and Infrastructure Committee, December 19th, 2024, please come to order. The time is now 9:15 a.m. May I ask that all participants please silence all noise-making devices. Today I am your chair, Tom Cook. Members, per the sunshine...
means peace in the Hebrew language. And if you want to extend that a little bit, Shalom Aleichem means peace be upon you. So that's what I wish for all of you today and everyone watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chair, and hopefully for the entire holiday season. Member Paulton is not presently here. Councilmember Johnson is excused. Good morning and shalom, aloha, Councilmember Keani Rollins Fernandez.
Aloha kakahia kakako, my Molokai Nuia Hina. I'm at my private residence alone here, and there are currently no testifiers at the Molokai District Office. Mahalo, Chair.
And Councilmember Noho'olani U'uhajans is excused today. And good morning, shalom, aloha, Councilmember Shane Sinisi.
Aloha, Chair. Shalom, aloha, Praneet, kako. Here at my private residence also, and here by myself, and no testifiers at the HANA office.
And, okay, Chair Lee, question? You're on mute.
I forgot to mention that I'm home alone in my workspace and no one here is with me, and looking forward to your meeting. Thank you.
So I believe I've introduced all 5 members. If I haven't missed anybody, I'm going to move on. From the Department of Public Works, we have Nali Yagin, traffic engineer. From Corporation Counsel, I believe online, we have Deputy Corporation Counsel Caleb Rowe. For today's first item, we have Kathleen Chu, project manager from Bowers and Kubota. For the second item, we have Tesla Ng and Carolyn Fukuda from Monokyo and Hiraga. Members, without objection, I will designate Ms. Chu, Ms. Fukunaga, and Ms. Ng as resource persons under Rule 18A of the Rules of the Council because of their expertise in today's subject matter, as both of their firms have been involved in the county-wide projects.
No objections.
Thank you. From our OCS, our committee staff, we want to welcome and appreciate Jared Pasquale, Sam Tank, Pauline Martins, Lori Ann Tangana, Carla Nagata, Lei Dening. Please see the last page of the agenda for today's information on meeting connectivity. Good morning, everyone. Today, and thank you for joining today's WAI committee meeting. We have 2 items on today's agenda, Y15 and Y17. Members, Y15 relates to the Wailai Road Extension Project. Members, we last discussed this matter at our committee meeting on June 19th, 2023. Since then, a draft environmental assessment was published on November 8th, 2024. Members, you may find the department's presentation on Granicus as attachment number 2. At this time, Mr. Yagin, please share your presentation and provide any opening remarks.
Hi, morning, Chair. Thanks for having us on these 2 projects. And so, just a brief summary. Waiale Road, it's a proposed extension of the current Waiale Road from Waiko Road to Honoa-Pilani Highway. It's been on the plans for a while, and it goes on to support things like housing and overall traffic circulation. So we're here this morning to provide you folks an update and maybe a little background first to start off. So I'll turn over the presentation to Kathleen Chu. Thank you.
Good morning, Council Chair and Council members. Thank you for allowing us to provide an overview of the Waiale Road Extension Project. Next slide. Okay. So just as a reminder, this project is located in Waikapu and extends Waiale Road approximately 8,600 feet. That's about 1.6 miles from the terminus at Waiko Road to Hono'opi'ilani Highway. Next slide, please. Oops, yeah. So as some background, this project is expected to provide both regional and local transportation by improving regional access to Hono'opi'ilani and Kuihelani highways. It'll provide safe access for non-motorized travelers with a shared use path, sidewalks, and shoulder bikeways. In addition, this extension will provide a catalyst to support the surrounding land use and development projects. And this project also has been leveraged through a public-private partnership to provide additional affordable homes in central Maui. On this project, the county was proactive and applied for a RAISE grant. That's a Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity in fiscal year 2022. It's a highly competitive grant, and the county was selected and will receive $25 million in additional funds for construction. Next slide, please. So this slide represents the general site plan for Waiale Road. The yellow areas and the dashed red lines represent the approximate limit of work. This is also called or known as the area of potential effect. It's a maximum area where there could be potential land disturbance. The red dashed lines also reflect two locations for temporary construction staging areas on the county's parcel. This map also shows where there will be two stormwater retention ponds, and there's going to be, this project includes a total of 4 intersections. There's also a bridge that's going to cross over Waikapu Stream. Next slide. This exhibit shows a typical section of this future extension. This roadway will be considered an urban major collector with 2 11-foot lanes, shoulder bikeways, curb and gutter on the Mauka side. That's the west side near the Waikapu Country Town development with a shared use path. On the other side, we'll have grassy swells and a sidewalk, and there'll be a variety of new utilities under the roadway. Next slide. So the roadway extension also includes a bridge crossing over Waikapu Stream. There were a number of conceptual bridge types and alternatives that were researched and considered, and this bridge crossing shown is a 60-foot long single span which extends over the entire bridge, which would allow for this project to stay out of the stream. With this bridge type, the bottom of the bridge will be 2 feet above the 100-year water surface elevation mark, and the bridge would go up and over the stream, so we would need to elevate the surrounding existing ground. Okay. And this is the preferred alternative right now for the bridge crossing. Next slide. This project is also including and providing a bunch of infrastructure needs. And so this project includes storm drainage, which has grass wells, the stormwater ponds and storm drainage lines. For utilities, it includes a water main, sewer mains, a reclaimed water line, and telecommunications and broadband. This project will provide a stub for a future connection to the future central water treatment facility. Okay. Next slide, please. So a traffic a TIAR stands for Transportation Impact Assessment Report. And so a comprehensive report and study was done for the entire area, which extended from Hono'opi'ilani and Kuhikahi extension, roadways intersection, and Kuihilani and Mauilani Parkway. So all the way to the north and all the way to the southern limits of the project. And a baseline was established in 2022, and the project forecasted traffic growth for over 20 years to 2045 to make sure that any improvements that we did considered future growth and the current growth that's occurring in the area. So the results that came out showed that the construction of the proposed Waiale roadway would reduce total vehicle miles of travel in central Maui and reduce delays at most intersections, all the intersections along Hono'opi'ilani Highway. And the reason why there would probably be reduced total vehicle miles is this road would probably allow people to make more direct routes and trips for vehicles, so there would be less cars that would have to go longer distances. Overall, with the new cumulative growth, most of the all of the intersections except Waiale and Kuhikahi would have reduced delays. 4 new intersections will operate fine in 2045 as signalized intersections or roundabouts. However, we are recommending roundabouts because they would reduce the number of conflict points at intersections and also act as a traffic calming measure along the corridor. Okay. Next slide, please. So the county does remain committed to addressing transportation concerns in the community, and they have started to review the Waiale corridor from Kahumanu to Kuikahi Drive. In addition, the county is looking at planning improvements at the Waiale and Kuikahi intersections. They're looking at a Waiale shared use pathway. And so just overall understanding the traffic growth that has occurred in Central Maui, the county is addressing these, and these projects listed here are outside of the Waiale Road improvement projects. And now I'm going to turn it over to Carlin Fukuda from Munikia Haraga.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Water and Infrastructure Committee. I'll be talking about the environmental assessment, which our office was tasked with preparing. The Hawaii Environmental Review Law, Chapter 343 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, along with the environmental impact rules of the Hawaii Administrative Rules, requires the review of projects which meet one of the triggers for Chapter 343. For the Waiale Road Extension Project, there is the use of state lands at Hono'opi'ilani Highway and the use of county lands and funds that require compliance with Chapter 343. Additionally, as it was mentioned earlier, a federal RAISE grant was received for the project, which also means that the project needs to comply with the Federal Environmental Review Law, or as it's known, the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. In compliance with the Hawaii Environmental Review Law, a draft EA document was prepared and the notice of availability was published in the November 8th Hawaii Environmental Review Program's Environmental Notice. There was a 30-day comment period for the draft EA, which ended on December 9th. Following the receipt of comments on the draft EA, we are in progress on preparing a final environmental assessment document, which will be prepared as a joint Hawaii and federal document. Next slide, please. The draft EA document was 2 volumes and can be found at the Hawaii Environmental Review Program's website. Additionally, there was a hard copy that was distributed of the draft EA to the Wailuku Public Library and also at the Hawaii Document Center in Oahu. Briefly, we wanted to touch upon some of the findings of the various reports in the EA document, in addition to the traffic study, which Kathleen previously shared. Regarding archaeology, the State Historic Preservation Division, or SHPD, determined that an inventory survey was needed. This is a study where there is testing of locations within the project area and documentation of finds. There were some previously identified archaeological sites found with the recent survey. A draft of the AIS is being prepared and will be submitted to SHPD, and any mitigation measures identified by the SHPD will be followed. Regarding cultural impacts, a cultural impact assessment report was prepared, which included historical background information on the project area, as well as interviews with people who have cultural information for the area or have long ties with the area to discuss any cultural practices that may have previously or may currently be occurring in the project area. Among the recommendations from the CIA included archaeological monitoring during construction, notification to the project contractor once they are selected of the potential for iwi kupuna in the area, and design considerations for the bridge crossing so as not to impact the flow of water from Waikapu Stream to Kealia Pond. Regarding flora and fauna, the biological study reviewed the project area and noted that there were no plants listed on the endangered species or threatened list occurring within the area. An assessment of the area of the Waikapu Stream was also conducted due to the planned bridge crossing. The report found that no federal critical habitat was designated within the entire project area and recommended best management practices during construction if there is work within Waikapu Stream, as well as to avoid potential impacts to federally identified birds, mammals, and insects. As part of the federal review requirements, we are also coordinating with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to receive a determination on the project relative to the Endangered Species Act. A noise study found that there were no anticipated impacts for the proposed project as there were no existing developments along the proposed roadway. Noise impacts may need to be reviewed by future projects once development is implemented along the proposed road. I also wanted to share that we have had community outreach from early on within this project. We presented before the Council's Water and Infrastructure Committee in June of last year and met with the Waikapu Community Association in July of last year and again in June of this year. A public meeting was held with the Waikapu owners and residents in June of this year, and there was most recently a public meeting held on December 5th. At this point, I'll turn the presentation back over to Kathleen.
Thank you, Carlin. So as some of our next steps, as Carlin mentioned, the draft environmental assessment was published on November 8th. We had a public meeting on December 5th, 2024. And technically our comment period closed on December 9th, but we did share with the public that we would take their comments on the draft EA through December 15th, 2024 to provide them with additional time. We plan to publish the final environmental document in the first quarter of 2025. We're proceeding with construction documents, and we hope to have them done by third quarter of 2025. And we hope to have this project advertised and go out to bid in the fourth quarter of 2025 or the first quarter in 2026. And the estimated construction cost at this time is $72 million. Okay. And that concludes our update for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you both and all for a comprehensive overview and update on the project. And before we begin our discussion, staff, is there anyone wishing to provide testimony?
Chair, the only individual looking to testify at this time is Glenn Adolfo.
Okay, so I'm going to read the anyone wishing to testify, please sign up in the lobby of the county council chambers or join online meeting or call to the phone number noted on today's agenda. For online testifiers, please click raise your hand button. For those calling in, please follow the prompts via phone *5 to raise or lower your hand, *6 to mute and unmute. Written testimony will continue to be accepted and can be submitted via e-comment at mauicounty.us/agendas. Staff will enable your microphone and video when it is your turn to testify. Oral testimony is limited to 3 minutes per item. If you are still testifying beyond that time, I will kindly ask you to complete your testimony. You can view the meeting on Akaku 53, Facebook Live, or mauicounty.us/agendas. Decorum will be maintained throughout the meeting. Breaching decorum includes anything that disrupts the orderly management of the meeting. Violation of decorum may result in being removed from the meeting. Before we start that, I would like to welcome Vice Chair Yukile Sugimura.
Thank you. Sorry I was late this morning, and glad to be here. This is one of my favorite projects. I'm grateful that you put it on the agenda so we can all learn more. Looking forward to your meeting. Thank you.
So staff, could you please call the first testifier?
Chair, the first testifier is Glenn Adolfo, and he's here in the chamber.
Welcome.
Aloha Committee Chair Tom Cook and other council members, committee members. My name is Glenn Adolfo. I am a representative of the Waikapu Community. I serve on the Waikapu Community Board as well as the Waikapu Community, Waikapu Gardens Homeowners Association. Today I'm speaking on behalf of our Waikapu Gardens Homeowners Association, which is right adjacent to this project. The Waikapu Community Gardens Homeowners Association appreciates the opportunity to give feedback on this proposed Waiale Road Extension project by the County Department of Public Works. As a follow-up to the Zoom presentation presented to the Waikapu community on December 5th, 2024, on this project, we would like to submit the following comments for review and consideration. Number one, we support the idea of installing a one-lane roundabout at the new proposed intersection of East Waiko Road and Waiale Road. This will become a very busy intersection, and based on the previous roundabouts installed at Mauilani, with Kamehameha, and coming up towards Mauilani Parkway onto Kuikahi, that roundabout has been very effective in making sure that traffic flows and keeps going. And that will do the same for this intersection, which will be a very busy intersection. Number two, we would like to recommend installing flashing signals to help ensure that children and pedestrians can cross the East Waiko Road and Waiale Road intersection, which will be the new intersection. The proposed Waikapu Country Town project, which will include an elementary and middle school, and also about 1,400 units, resident units, commercial and business spaces as well, and other amenities that will be utilized by the children and pedestrians that frequent that area. Installing flashing signals will help safeguard the safety of the children attending the schools and pedestrians that will be crossing this intersection to go into the Waikapu country town to utilize the amenities there. As for our Waikapu Gardens Homeowners Association, we would like to recommend installing a speed table on the south side of the Waiale Road just before the intersection, just before the entrance of our Waikapu Garden Phase 2. That particular phase has 57 homes in it, and Waiale Road is the only exit and entrance into that subdivision. Adjacent to that is the Waikapu Gardens Phase 1, which encompasses 410 homes. And we would like some kind of traffic mitigation, whether it be a stoplight or a roundabout be placed there so that our people can get in and out safely. During the presentation of December 5th, there were many concerns, and some coming down from neighbors that live in the Kealani subdivision across from the prison. And their concerns was they have a hard time getting out in the morning, turning left, going to Wailuku. So, you know, what we need to do is look at it as a holistic thing, not just one area. What happens at the top of the stream, comes down, feeds the people and goes out into the ocean. It's the same with this concept with the extension of the road. We need to take into consideration the impacts that it will have on the neighboring communities. We recognize and support the affordable housing that's coming up. We just want to make sure things are done safely, and we look forward to working together as a community with the officials from the Department of Public Works and Monokio. And we'd like to thank them because they've been very supportive, coming to our meetings and explaining what's happening to our community. We appreciate the opportunity to give public testimony and look forward to working together with everyone. Mahalo.
Thank you. Please wait to see members. Are there any clarifying questions? Member Sugimura?
Yeah, thank you. I wonder if staff would allow me to enter the meeting online. I'm still, anyway, but more than that, thank you very much for being here and always being involved with the community. So your Waikapu Gardens project and the community is a separate organization than the Waikapu Community Association.
Correct. Yeah. Waikapu, our Waikapu Gardens Homeowners Association is just the Waikapu Gardens itself. Waikapu Community Association encompasses all the communities that are in Waikapu.
Okay, so what you're saying, what you testified on for clarification is consistent with what the Waikapu Community Association also said?
Yes, yes. At the meeting, we have our president and board members attend that as well. And we're all together on that. I mean, we want to, you know, help with the affordable housing and this Waikapu country town. We've been in contact and discussion with Mike Atherton, who's the developer, and he's part of our Waikapu Community Association, and he's even offered to help pay for some of the traffic mitigations in our public meetings.
Very good. Thank you for being here, always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members online, Chair Lee, clarifying question for our testifier.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Glenn. Good to see
Good
you.
morning.
And yes, Glenn is very, very active in both associations and very diligent in following all projects. Glenn, perhaps you could clarify what you meant by, let's say, unintended consequences of this new extension to, let's say, the intersection. I think you talked about other intersections like Kuikahi and Waiale. You know, how that area is backed up right now.
Yeah, and that's something we're working on, Chair Lee, right now. We're trying to work as a community to bring the different departments, state, county together. That intersection at Waiale and Kuikahi is very, very busy in the morning. Traffic is backed up. And that's because there's a lot of traffic coming up from Mauilani trying to take a right turn onto Waiale. There's traffic coming from Honopi'ilani highway down trying to take a left turn, a left turn onto Waiale. And there's traffic coming on both sides of Waiale from Wailuku side to Ma'alaya, and then from Ma'alaya, where we are, from Waikapu Gardens over. That traffic, that intersection is always busy. Traffic is backed up from that intersection going down past Long's Drugs, past Hashi's Car Wash, past the Wailuku Bridge all the way down to Lower Main. So it is very congested. So we're just trying to be proactive and look at what we can do to help address some of the concerns of traffic and make it easier for our whole community.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Member Kama, clarifying question for our testifier.
Thank you, Chair. So, thank you for being here, Mr. Adolfo. So, in your testimony, you said that the only way the Waikapu Gardens, at least your folks' units, your 57 units, I think you said, were able to go in and out is through that's the only road that from your subdivision, the only one is right out on Waiale Road. Right?
There are two,
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
There are two phases to Waikapu Gardens. The first phase has 410 homes. There are three entrances, but the main entrance is Ha'awi Street because that's
Okay.
the middle. So all the other,
Right.
the other two entrances, if we were to look at traffic mitigations, we're suggesting Ha'awi Street because everybody can come in from the inner street, come down Ha'awi, and then on to Waiale Road. The other phase two, has 57 homes. And yes, that Waiale is the only entrance and exit from their subdivision.
Have you folks ever looked at to see if there's another way to mitigate that so you might be able to go out on Honopi'ilani?
We have our roads in Waikapu Phase 1 is private roads. It was done that way from the beginning. Those of you who have worked with the developer back then, which was Spencer Homes, Jesse Spencer,
Yeah.
you guys know the history behind that and why it's private. We would have preferred for it to be turned over to the county, but unfortunately it wasn't. So that's a private road and that prevents some liability for us as homeowners association. There is the first entrance going up Kokololeo, which goes up to Honopi'ilani Highway. It stops before it reaches Honopi'ilani Highway in our subdivision. The problem with that is that if you open that road up, right above that is Wailuku Heights. There's the Hawaiian Homes, which is being built right now, and there's going to be another phase above that, and other developments underneath Wailuku Heights, which would make that probably another connector. Our people are going to be locked in. They're not going to be able to get out from the streets, the inner streets from Waikapu Phase 1. So that's why we decided to keep it private right now so that our people can get out at least on to the main exits and onto Waiale at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any other clarifying questions for our testifier? If seeing none, the chair's questions. So the two recommendations were, one, a speed table.
A speed table or whatever would help reduce the traffic speed on Waiale so that our people from Phase 2 can get out safely.
That would mitigate, that would slow people down on both sides so be able to get out. The other suggestion was flashing crosswalks at the roundabout.
At the roundabout. And looking at a roundabout or a traffic signal at Ha'awi and Waiale Road for our first phase, which has 410 homes.
Okay, thank you for your testimony and your participation.
Thank you.
Members, before we, any other clarifying questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Staff, any other testifiers?
Chair, there's no one else currently signed up to testify on this item. Oh, I do see JC Law making his way down to the podium.
Aloha kakahiaka luna ho'omolukuk and ka'aha kalana o Maui, aloha kako, aloha akaku. Oval JC Law, I'm in favor of this project. I was able to read the black binder packet from the Council Services Office and comprehend quickly what this agenda item was about. So mahalo to Jordan Molina and Na Mahana for a nice slideshow. I especially like the part about the pedestrian use and the bicycle lanes. And one condition I would like to see with any future businesses is no churches. Shalom.
Any clarifying questions, members, for our testifier? Seeing none. Staff, any additional testifiers?
Chair, there's no one currently signed up to testify. We'll do a last call. 3, 2, 1. Chair, there's no one signed up to testify at this time.
Members, seeing that there are no more individuals wishing to testify without objections, we've just shut down oral testimony.
No objections.
Members, I'm proposing 2 rounds of 3 minutes each per member. Any objections?
No,
Thank you, members. I would now like to open the floor for questions. We'll start with Vice Chair Sugimura.
yeah, thank you very much for having this item, Chair. Great work always, and I wanted to find out, sorry about, I didn't hear if it was presented. Can you break down the cost of $72 million? I don't know who it would be, whether,
Hi, Chair.
Hi.
Unfortunately, we don't have a detailed breakdown of the 72 million. Yeah, it's something that we could submit if you guys have, if the questions could be forwarded.
okay, I do know that this project got federal funds, like a grant, and that was what, 25 million? And where is the significant risk coming from?
So every year we also do have STIP formula funds. I'm not sure of other sources, maybe some bridge funding as well. And there is, I think there is a share component with developments. So it's something that we've been trying to work out as we develop the project costs.
And I guess because this is such an important project and serving a lot of the development projects that we're hoping to get done for the affordable housing, workforce housing components. So you will be then working with, are we going to be using our GET funds for roads? Oh, we cannot use GET for roads. That's only water and wastewater. That's right. That's right. So basically, is your funding coming from through MPO sources?
MPO meaning I guess the federal, yes, yeah.
And the priority that is on. And maybe if we could get a breakdown of what the the $72 million are, when it's needed, and if we're actually looking to get assistance from state funding, and what that is, when would you need it? Because you're not gonna finish this like all within the next fiscal year, but you know, what does it look like going forward? Did you say you're going to start construction in the fourth quarter, possibly of 25 or the first of 26, right? So then the funding would be needed significantly, you know, targeted towards that. So I wonder if you could give us an idea of what we can expect for the taxpayers on Maui.
So, thank you, Council Vice Chair Sugimura. I believe the goal is to get it advertised and bid in the end of 2025. An actual, like, ground disturbing probably wouldn't occur until the beginning of 2026. So timing wise, you know, once the Public Works actually awards the contract, it'll take some time before the contractor can actually get their NTP, notice to proceed. So you won't actually see any construction activity likely till 2026, but funding wise, probably by the end of 2025. And 2025, 2026, this project will require PUC approval. So that's one of the big items that could take some time. There's some large transmission poles along Waiko that need to be relocated, along as a transmission line along Honoapi'i Lining Highway. So those are also some of the big cost items that are leading to, you know, the $72 million price tag. That, in addition to the bridge, it's a significant bridge, and part of the roundabout is also included with the bridge, which makes it a little bit more complex.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, we'll look forward to more detailed information from Public Works probably. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Kama, you have questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, so my question is regarding the infrastructure. So in your presentation, you mentioned that the infrastructure that is going to be put in is going to benefit, and there's many benefits to that. So who really is, I mean, aside from the traffic mitigation and the drainage and all that, I mean, are there going to be other people along the corridor that will benefit, or other developments along that will benefit from that?
Thank you for that question. Well, there, there's, the road actually has a pretty large regional benefit. One is if you're coming from, say, some sections of Wailuku, right now your normal route is to go up into Wailuku town and get into the mix of all the roadways with Main Street and Market Street,
Right.
possibly. So what this does is it provides those areas a more direct route back onto the highway without having to bypass Wailuku Elementary, the small town area of Wailuku. And freight-wise, it helps in the industrial area as well, because now they have a more direct route through town, through Wailuku town, instead of getting in the mix with everyone else as well. So there are benefits regionally. And in the opposite direction, it's the same way. There are developments. The roadway supports housing as well. And so on new housing projects, of course, traffic is always a problem. And what
Right.
this road, so what this road does is it kind of offloads some of those responsibilities. Not all of it. I mean, they all have a share of it, but it does help
Right.
them as well.
And okay, so also part of the presentation talked about the EIS, and that I was looking at the flora and fauna portions of that, but I was also wondering about the how would would the salt ponds over there at Kealia be impacted by this?
Thank you, Councilmember Kama, for the question. I think it's relative to the Waikapu stream crossing, and the stream, when it does flow, flows eventually to Kealia Pond. And so that's the comments that were made in the flora and fauna study. And I believe also in the cultural impact assessment, in terms of any work within the stream, being aware of potential impacts during the construction to the flows, which may impact ultimately downstream the Kealia Pond area. So that's
Okay.
that's the, I guess, the connection, if you will, to Kealia Pond.
Okay. Just want to make sure, because we talk about the flowers and the stream and the endangered species, but I don't know how you would put salt ponds in there where that lies, but definitely that is a cultural resource. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Chair Lee, questions?
Thank you, Chair. I do have a copy of the testimony from Glenn Adolfo, and I'll send it to the committee. It was actually addressed to Public Works. So they have a copy, and so does Munakio Hiraga. I wanted to, Mr. Yagin, get back to the cost. Now, $72 million is a lot of money, and that was the original requirement of the developer to provide this bypass, the extension from Honouapi Ilani Highway to Waiko Road, the intersection of Waiale and Waiko. So how did it turn into a public-private situation where the federal government, the state government, the county governments sort of took over the responsibility of this requirement to zoning?
Chair, if I may.
Jordan Molina popped up. You see him?
Director Molina, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just checking, you guys can hear me okay? Okay.
You're coming in loud
for
and
the
clear.
record, Jordan Molina, Director with Public Works. So to clarify, this road is not an explicit requirement of the development. It was one of the alternatives considered in their EIS, but there is a path forward for them to move on their project without the roadway. What ended up happening is there's a share in this roadway because all the traffic is not exclusive to the project. And so that is why the county is involved, is because we hold a portion of this project, which I think is over 50% of the traffic being attributed to existing development and not from the project. So this is not exclusively a developer road. In addition to the road cost, what's been added that wasn't contemplated with the development is the extension of infrastructure. So bringing the recycled water, bringing in the sewer mains, bringing in the water mains through this new corridor to not only serve the future treatment plant, but also bring utility service to the county lands that'll be
Okay,
Jordan,
Jordan, okay. So you're saying that the development and construction of this bypass was not a requirement of the project itself? Okay, that's what you're saying, right?
They have a cost share.
Okay. Oh, they had a cost share. Okay, so, and then my understanding that they also had a requirement to build a private sewer system. Is that not true?
That, so in the private-public partnership, which council adopted when it amended the zoning conditions for the project, both the cost share on the road and cost share for the wastewater treatment plant were folded into that public partnership, which effectuated an exchange of additional affordable housing units to offset that infrastructure cost.
So how many more affordable housing units are there? What's the ratio?
I would have to refer, but I believe it was somewhere in 200 or so range of market units are now becoming affordable units in exchange for the infrastructure costs being taken on by the county.
No, but of the 1,400 units, how many affordable and how many market?
I don't know the final breakdowns offhand. I'd have to refer to the ordinance.
Okay. All right. Thank you. My time's up.
Thank you. And Member Rollins Fernandez? Questions for our resource people?
Mahalo, Chair. No questions at this time.
Member Sinensi, questions for our resource people?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple questions, and mahalo for the presentation. So when you guys are building the bridge over the stream, is that Seaworm, Mission on Water Resource Management? Are you working with Seaworm when you're either working within the stream or putting in the bridge?
Thank you, Council Member, for the question. So, as Kathleen shared in the presentation, there were a few alternatives that were being reviewed for the bridge, and so depending on the preferred alternative, maybe we'll just stick with that, is to not do any work within the stream. And so if there is no work within the stream, our understanding, and we have included the Seaworm as well as the Army Corps of Engineers, they were all included in the draft environmental assessment review. But there had been additional coordination with the Army Corps, again, because of the federal environmental review requirements. But if there was work in the stream for the bridge, then that would trigger the additional requirements for permits from CWRM, as you mentioned, as well as the Army Corps and potentially others as well. So, but at this time, the preferred alternative that the project is looking at is for no work in the stream.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. And then for your consultation, 106 consultation, are there any groups within the area that you would have to meet with?
So, so there was Section 106 consultation letters sent out to the Native Hawaiian organizations on the National Department of Interior's approved list, or Native Hawaiian organizations list. And to date, I believe Public Works has not received any requests for early, further consultation from any of those organizations. So there was, though, consultation, letters that were sent out relative to that.
Oh, okay. And those would be local groups from the area.
Whoever was listed on the Department of Interior's list, that did include Maui organizations and individuals, I believe, and also included, I believe, even organizations on other islands, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe the mainland as well. So, but they were all included on the Department of Interior's list.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Members, second round of questions, starting with Member Sugimura.
I'm just looking primarily for the information that we'll get from the department on the funding sources and what the time schedule is. So that one, if you could send a letter to them so that we could get that. And then I guess the presentation must be online. I'll check that out. Thank you.
Staff, could you confirm that?
Yes, Chair, we can send a follow-up letter, and then the presentation is attachment number 2 on Granicus.
Thank you. No questions.
I apologize, Chair. Director Molina's hand is up.
Oh.
Director Molina, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. To briefly address Member Sugimura's questions, the funding right now is $25 million from our grant, and the balance is going to be county funding at this point, and we anticipate and requesting that in FY 26 in the upcoming budget to maintain the construction schedule. We had been in various coordination efforts with the state. Unfortunately, none have materialized in terms of state-supported funding for this project. And then I guess just to note too, what added to the cost is the inclusion of the underground utilities that is a little less than half of the cost of this project to get those improvements in as well, which are directly kind of county interests on those utilities that are operated by our county departments. So yeah, it is a huge request coming to push this project forward in the coming year. Thank you.
So may I ask Director a question then? So state funding, what kind of state funding were you looking for that did not pan out?
From my understanding, the only state funding that would have worked is grant funding. And they were unable to make that offer. There was various loan proposals thrown out there, but again, you guys know our loan is better than their loan, so why would we pay for a more expensive loan for the state? And so that's where we currently stand with the project.
So how much were you asking for grant funding?
Whatever we can get. I can't speak for the state in terms of what they deem reasonable or justifiable from their perspective to expend state funds on this county roadway. Thank you.
No, my question was, how much did you ask them and they did not have a response? Did you have a number, or what, are you just saying any of the 50 million?
Yeah, I'll take 50 if they're willing to throw 50 out, but anything helps at this point because it's a huge number.
Okay, so you didn't really have a number that you're asking them for. You're just asking for whatever?
In the beginning, there was a $20 million number floated around. by some of the state representatives. But again, those kind of commitments fizzled out. And so right now there's nothing in place.
Okay. Legislature's coming up, so we can work on it. Can try. Thank you. No questions.
Member Rollins Fernandez?
Mahalo, Chair. Aloha, Director Molina. Mahalo for your update and your comments. So I remember the $20 million number. Do you know why those negotiations or talks like fizzled out? Did it have to do with like the aftermath of Lahaina and the rebuild? Like is because that, like, all of that talks came with like HCF too, like that whole discussion with Rep Kyle Yamashita, like they were about it, and they were like pushing all of this like hard with Hawaii Community Foundation with their House Maui program, and so I guess I can't say I'm surprised that it's fizzled out. That, you know, it's not super reliable all the time. But yeah.
Yeah, it began back under Mayor Victorino's administration when we first started kind of bringing this project to the top of the list. I guess for me, it was always unclear what funding source they were trying to propose. And then when it became to loan recommend or suggestions, obviously, like I said, you know, we're not going to take their money. It's more expensive. And then again, I don't think they had clear justification to spend that money on a county facility. The other thing that came up, of course, is their consideration for the school component. That's part of the development project, and that's going to be a big ticket item for them, which I think they're still working through their plans for that part of the project. So good intentions, I think, in the beginning, but the devil's in the details, and the details haven't been resolved yet. So it's on the county at this point.
Mahalo, Director Molina. Meanwhile, the governor is holding over $1 billion in his rainy day fund.
Does that complete your question, Member Rollins Fernandez?
Yes, sorry. 1.5 billion reports Honolulu Star Advertiser.
Okay.
1.5 billion in his rainy day fund.
Chair, if I can note one more thing, I believe also when the county was successful in getting the raised grant, that's when they kind of also further backed away, feeling that we got the support we needed.
Mahalo, Director. Also, you know, I saw reports of the Finance Committee Chair, Rep Yamashita, wanting to end our county TAT and county GET surcharge. So again, unreliable when it comes to the certainty of funding that, you know, the state will, you know, support us in getting. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. That's the bell. Chair Lee, did you have your hand up for an additional?
Yeah, I did. Question for Mr. Molina. So going back to the Atherton project again, did you say that the county, in exchange for 200 more affordable units, the project did not have to contribute to the this project, Waiale project? The Waiale
That's correct.
bypass.
We took that contribution they would have made to the roads to offset the cost of that affordable and to get that 200 units. So that 200 units is roughly proportional to their contribution for both the roadway and for the wastewater treatment plant, if I recall correctly.
So essentially, we're subsidizing 200 units with $50 million.
Yeah, that was what the PPP contemplated, was that exchange for additional housing units.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Member Kama?
Thank you, Chair. So I wanted to get back to the part where the homestead not homestead, but the Hawaiian beneficiary list. Because I was just wondering, that if nobody responded to that, that just kind of surprises me. So I was wondering if I could ask who were the people or who were the associations on the list that were sent that notice.
Chair, Committee, Councilmember Kama, sorry.
Yes.
Just to clarify, you're asking about the Section 106 consultation
Yeah.
list?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we could provide that to the committee.
Okay.
I don't have that with me right now today,
Right,
so.
Yeah,
But yes, we
yeah.
can provide that.
okay. So my next question is, what triggers the 106 consultation?
So for this particular project, it's the federal funding, the RAISE grant that was received for the project. There could be other federal triggers as well, but right now the trigger is the RAISE
Okay.
grant.
Okay, so I'm going to look forward to that list coming to, I guess, the committee, Chair.
Staff, could you confirm that?
Yes, sure. We can send the follow-up letter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much, Chair. Because one of the names on the list is Pakukala Hawaiian Homes, and I'm surprised that they didn't do or send in anything. Just give them a call. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Sinisi, follow-up question?
Hello, Chair. Yeah, just a quick question about the requirements and the monitoring of the project. Have you worked with our county archaeologist and or any potential cultural inventory of the area? And has there been any subterranean inspections of the area? Any red flags prior to beginning the project?
Thank you, Councilmember Sinensi. So yes, as a public works project, very early on, we did involve the county archaeologist, Janet Six, in the archaeological discussions, and I believe she's been made aware of progress on the archaeology as the project has progressed. In regards to whether there was subsurface testing, yes, as part of the archaeological inventory survey report, there was trenching done within areas within the project site. So the findings of the archaeological testing did not find anything of significance. There were existing sites that had been previously identified by other reports, archaeological reports, for projects in the area, such as the Waikapu Country Town project that has been discussed as part of this conversation today. So they were re-identified as part of the study. There is a site that was identified near the intersection, the roundabout at Honoapi'ilani Highway and the Waiale Road extension, that intersection, which was an old ditch area. So that is being further reviewed by Stanley Solomilo, who is a qualified historic architecture, I forgot what the designation is, sorry, but he's within the planning department as well, so.
Okay. Right. Thank you for that report. Thank you, Chair.
And members, any need for another round of questions before the chair asks his question? Member Rollins Fernandez, looks like you're going for your mic. Nope? Okay. Thank you, Resources, for being here. Chair has a couple of questions. Regarding permits, what outstanding permits are required? And I understand you mentioned the PUC approval because of the power line relocation. are there any county permits as far as grading, et cetera? And what is the status of applying and receiving those permits?
Right, thank you, Chair. Yes, so there are county permits that's required. A grading permit, of course, is one of them. And so we will need to go through that review process. Once the construction documents are ready to be submitted, we'll go through our typical project permitting and review process.
In your construction schedule, is there an estimated time frame for permit review and approval?
A time frame for review. Our typical process has been somewhere in the range of about several months to even quite a bit longer. It depends on the different agencies as well, so it varies.
Thank you. That kind of leads me up to my next question. It's like the $72 million budget, and is there a contingency or with the proposed escalation due to time delays? And I think people are getting used to this particular chair asking and pointing out that the permit review and approval process time frame often is a delay, which causes potential escalation in cost. And is there any contingency? I mean, the $72 million will be addressed once the bid is out. We know what the actual cost will be.
Chair, if I may.
Director
Jordan.
Molina, thank you.
I just want to know that one thing's in our advantage here is extensive pre-review of this project. The area has been reviewed through the Waikapu Country Town process, through their change in zoning, through their EIS process. We are also in that consultation for our EA, HIPAA-NEPA process. And so there's going to be a lot of pre-review by those typical review agencies on this project. So by the time we got to go pull permits, those agencies will be familiar with this project. And so we anticipate that'll be less problematic than some of our other work that we've had in the past. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Also, it appears that there's been thorough outreach and communication with the communities, and they're supportive, which should be helpful. Chair's first round is time is up. Members, is there any other questions, or Chair can ask his second round? Okay. I'm curious, and this is for Director Molina, you probably might be more familiar with this. How many, on a project like this, one, is it going to be planned to be done in phases? And two, how many qualified bidders are there projected to be available to do a project of this size?
Phasing will likely be driven by the contractor. What's, I guess, advantageous for this project, we're in open fields. There's no existing development in our way. So beyond just managing how much open ground is active at one time, there isn't really a need to phase beyond kind of the particular improvements, like the intersections will be its own kind of component of the project, especially that highway tie-in. And as far as bidders, I mean, we do anticipate, because it's a large value project, we'll get more bidders than we typically see for our smaller jobs. And yeah, I can't speak to how many will bid, but if I had to guess, probably in the range of 6 to 10, just given the dollar value on it.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. It's the one I was hoping to hear, hoping would be a fact. I want to thank, if there are any follow-up questions from the members, I'd like to thank our resource people. No objections? I'd like to thank Mr. Yagan, Ms. Ng, and Mrs. Fukuda, I can't read my own writing, for a very comprehensive presentation today and an update on this project. The information's been very comprehensive, and from previous presentations, it's obvious that you've been moving forward quite diligently, and it's appreciated. Members, if there's no objections, the chair would like to defer this item.
No objection.
No objections.
Thank you, members, and thank you to our resource people for joining us this morning. We'll now move on to the next item. And seeing that it's 10:25, the chair proposes we take a 10-minute recess. Any objections?
No objections, Chair.
Okay. We'll take it, the time is now 10:25, and the Infrastructure Committee meeting is in recess until 10:35. Members, welcome back from our break. And we're now going to address Y1.7, the Kihei North-South Collector Road. Members, Y1-7 relates to the Kihei North-South Collector Road. We discussed this road extension project on July 31st, 2023, and I've requested an update from the Department of Public Works on this matter. We also have Monokio Haraga with us online to assist with our committee's discussion. Members, you may find the department's presentation on Granicus as attachment number 2. Mr. Yagan, at this point, please begin your presentation and provide any opening remarks.
Thank you, Chair, for having us present on this project. Perhaps I'll just get right into it. So, a little background about this project. So, the Liloa Drive extension, it was formerly known as the Kihei North-South Collector. And just to orient yourselves, the project is an extension of the current Liloa Drive, which ends at Waipuilani Street. This extension proposes to extend this roadway all the way past Kulani Hakoi up to Ka'ono'ulu Street. So a distance of almost a mile. Before I get into this, so the project is actually broken down in 2 phases. The permitting will be done as one complete process, but the construction would need to be done in 2 phases. Background, the North-South Collector was master planned quite a while ago, back in the 80s. It was identified in many of the transportation master plans. Some shown here are the Federal Aid Highway 2035 plan, the South Maui Sub-Area Transportation Plan, and even the MPO's Helem Maui Long Range Transportation Plan. It's also identified in the South Maui Community Plan. The project did apply for a raise grant similar to our Waiale Road extension project, and it was awarded $25 million. And it continues to be a priority project for the current administration. Just to go over some benefits of this project, it is an alternative to South Kihei Road, and with the weather events that's been reoccurring more often, an alternate route is important, and so this provides some outlet for some of the subdivisions below, especially in the areas between Waipuilani Street to Ka'ono'ulu, and so it's important for that. It's also an alternative to Piilani Highway, which, if you've driven it, it's a rather high speed. Although signed at 40 miles per hour, I believe, the operating speeds tend to be a lot higher. And so this will allow some of the local trips to the center of Kihei, an alternative route. It's also an undeveloped corridor, so what this does, this project intends to beautify the area. And if you know the area, it is dry brush, and so it reduces the hazards from fire. And I don't know how long ago that was, but there was a fire that affected one of the subdivisions there. I believe it was Piilani Village. Piilani Village, yes. It also consists of drainage improvements. The area does get affected by heavy rains, especially from upcountry, and so this helps to kind of clean up the drainage flows, not exactly mitigate it, but clean it up a bit. It's because of the multi-use path that's attached to it. It also provides some recreational opportunities and health opportunities as well. And because it is separated from the roadway, it does provide a safer, more comfortable biking and walking route. So what we have on screen is the general plan for the project. So as I mentioned, it's to be done in two phases. So the first phase starts just a little south of Waipuilani Street because of all the tie-ins to the existing roadway, and extends to right around Heiona Place, so which is just north of Kulani Hakoi. And phase two would continue all the way to Kaono'ulu Street. The proposed improvements are sidewalks, curbs, gutters, the multi-use path that I mentioned, street lighting, there will be railings, fencing, landscaping. Of course, because of the grades in the area, there will also be retaining walls. There's gonna be overhead and underground utility work, installation of underground storm drainage systems, and at all the major intersections, we're proposing roundabouts. And two bridge crossings, one at Kulani Hakoi Gulch and the next one at Waipuilani Gulch. So what we have is, it's a typical section of the roadway, basically retaining walls on one side where as needed. And as we go towards the right, the two travel lanes, sidewalks, travel lanes, and then the greenway with multi-use path. And shown here is just a typical section of the bridge crossings. Again, we'll have two bridges, one at Kulani Hakoi and Waipuilani, and the other one at Kulani Hakoi Gulch. And just an example of how roundabouts will be used at major intersections. I think this one is at Kulani Hakoi Street. And so we are currently in the environmental phase. We did publish a draft environmental assessment. We did receive comments, and we are now developing the final environmental assessment, which we hope to publish in the first part of next year. We will also need an SMA permit, which we will take on in the latter part of that year. Phase one, we'll need to get some land rights, so things like easements. We may need to acquire some small portions of property. Construction is initiation, so we're kind of controlled by the RAISE grant that was awarded to this. So we do have an obligation deadline of the fall of 27. And so we are targeting construction documents in the later part of 26. And our current construction cost is in the range of about 50 million. So this is another large project as well. And current progress and next steps. So we've met with the Kihei Community Association. We've also had meetings with different homeowners associations and individual property owners as well. And we continue to welcome meeting with any property owners or anyone who has concerns on this project. As I said, we're working on the final environmental assessment, and we do have extensive coordination with Federal Highway, HDOT, our funding partners, and electrical utilities as well. We've been in discussion with them on this project, so we have started that coordination process for the construction documents. We are preparing for the processes after the environmental assessment, so which includes things like land rights, and let's see, design work is approaching about 50%. So that's our current status. So thank you, and welcome any questions. We do have our consultants online, I believe. I can't really confirm it here, but we do have Tessa Munikio from Munikio Hiraga. They're handling our environmental and permitting. And I think we might have Brad Wright from our engineering consultant too for any technical questions as well. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your presentation. Staff, do we have any public testimony?
The first individual signed up to testify is Zandra Amaro Cruz, to be followed by Mike Moran.
And I'd like to welcome Councilmember Paulton.
Aloha kakahiaka kako.
And Ms. Amaro Cruz is in the chambers.
Kraus. Okay.
Aloha Committee Chair and members, and for those of you who are in chamber, thank you very much for being here for us. My name is Andra Amaral Kraus. You guys can remember my name because if you say house, I'm the Kraus. I had a hard time with this name also when I married my husband, so I don't blame you guys because it's spelled as differently. But I'm testifying on behalf of Liloa, the old North-South Collector Road. I want to first of all thank you, Member Cook, our Committee Chair Cook, and Hiraga for being at all of our community meetings for many, many, many years regarding this project. My only hopes is that I realized that there was a problem with land rights, with owners, and I'm so glad to hear from Hiraga's today to know that that is being addressed, and it has been for a long time. You've been working with the owners, for which I'm very grateful. However, as stipulated earlier through your testimony, this project has been on the book for 24 years, and I can recall testifying on almost every of those hearings for the past 15 years since I've been home from the mainland. And I think it's important because, as stipulated by the representative of the county for the development of this road, we saw what happened to Lahaina. And within the Lahaina project, a fire, myself and my neighbors were left with the task of getting on our roofs and hosing down our homes because the Pulehu fire came down through the ranch to our backyards. And we know that this escape route is really needed. And I see the urgency in the council. I see the urgency that's being put forth by Hiraga. I am seeing the urgency put out by so strators and administrators. But my only request is, I'm sorry, that's okay. My only request on, are we good? Okay, okay. I'm sorry. The only request, I think that there has been, I cannot even begin to count how many public meetings there were with the Community Association in Kihei for over 24 years. And again, thank you for being there. But for somehow, some way, this is not something that can be put or delayed any further than it has been for whatever reasons, because our lives and the lives of my neighbors and the lives of my neighbors' children means a lot to me as they do to you. So I humbly ask and I thank you for doing as much as you all have done thus far. And I humbly ask, continue, press forward, and let it happen. Not in 2 years, 20 years, but in a year or two. And I was glad to hear that this is in the plans for exactly that time frame. Mahalo.
Thank you. Members, any clarifying questions for the testifier? I would like to thank the testifier for being consistently involved and supportive over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, the next and currently last individual signed up to testify is Mike Moran.
Welcome, Mr. Moran.
Thank you, Committee Chair Cook and committee members. Mike Moran for the Kihei Community Association. I'm familiar, this is not a question and answer session, but I would ask you to, in your deliberations, to please clarify with the decision makers on the shared path, the current shared path of the existing road that's just south of this. That shared path is clearly marked for no motor vehicles. And when that was originally constructed, that was not in place. And we had a challenge with that we did have motorized vehicles on there. Now, of course, that was decades ago. And today, what are considered motorized vehicles has changed quite a bit with the e-bikes and e-scooters and so forth. So we would like clarification at some point. Is this shared path going to have that same restriction of no motorized vehicles, if that could be in your deliberations? On the project, where we are immensely supportive of this project, and Chair Cook, you often bring up that issue of delays increase the expense. And this is a perfect example of that happening. When we hear that this was considered back in the 80s and dribs and drabs were built, but look how much, now we're looking at $50 million for 1 mile. And granted, it's gulches and bridges and stuff, but how much less would it have cost a decade ago? But water under the new bridge on that, but something to keep in mind. Yet we are, as I said, are in complete support of it for all the reasons that have been stated. And this particular segment for the multimodal transportation is so key. This second phase, which will open up south of Honolulu. For decades, we've had that challenge with our neighborhood. For those that were walking and cycling, that once you were going south and you got to Honolulu, there was no way through except South Kihei Road or the highway. Other areas have neighborhood streets where cyclists and walkers can go, but once you hit Honolulu, you're blocked. And when we've had tragic instances where South Kihei Road was closed for some reason, pedestrians were told by well, there's no choice. You have to go up and walk along the highway. So this is such a key, it's a second phase, but this is the key portion in many of our opinions. And in closing, I will just remind folks that while, yes, this is additional transportation infrastructure, not for long, because pretty much by the time this segment of this road is open, South Kihei Road will be gone. So we're not really gaining anything, we're just keeping pace, but better keeping pace than falling further behind. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Members, any clarifying questions? I see Member Paulton's hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Moran, for your testimony. I just wanted to clarify on the shared use path that you were referring to. This is the already constructed shared use path that you were referring to, or a to be constructed shared use path?
Well, the current path does prohibit motorized vehicles, and we're hoping that this, which is really just an extension of that will apply as well on here. But as we said, times have changed, and there may be considerations well, is a electric bike, an e-bike, is that considered a motor vehicle? So we would just like clarification. We have at least 2 years before the road is open, but so we're clear when it opens, what is going to be permitted on that shared use path. And the shared use path is both bicycles and pedestrians. So it's not a dedicated bicycle path. It's shared by both, even though there's a sidewalk on the other side of the street just for pedestrians. But that's our concern. What we have now in the existing one says no motor vehicles. And our question is that going to be the same on the newly constructed portion?
And to clarify, the existing one with no motorized, they don't allow electric bikes or electric scooters and such, the one wheel people mover?
Well, of course, I've never seen any enforcement of the rule. And as a old goat cyclist, I use that as often as possible. And I have occasionally seen e-bikes on it, e-scooters on it. I haven't seen any of the old mopeds on it, but that's understandable. And unfortunately, that little strip doesn't get much use because it's so short. It connects right to our two of our schools. So it would be outstanding as this goes across. How many more children can cycle or walk along that path from further areas instead of parents having to drive them? Because as parents have told us consistently, I love my kid to be able to walk or bike, but it's not safe. And this will be safe.
Me too. Last clarification, is it your preference to have e-bikes and electric scooters or to not have those?
Well, honestly, our association didn't really decide that when it got down to that aspect. So I can't say that what the community association position is on that. I personally, I have no objection to people, even though I still pedal, I have no objection to others using more modern, as long as it's done safely. That's the whole key. We all know that the traditional thing is, as a bicyclist, they estimate it goes at an average of 10 miles per hour, where the e-bikes, the medium range e-bikes go about 20 miles an hour. And when you have pedestrians walking, that's a big difference. We all know the faster the speed when a collision occurs, the more damage is done. So I can't say what the association's position on it is, but it really would be, in a perfect world, it would be a separate road for bicyclists as opposed to pedestrians. But we're very happy to be getting what we're getting.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other clarifying questions for testifier Mr. Moran? My clarifying comment, Mike, is gratitude to you over the years for basically continually keeping this, advocating for it. And I agree with you that the next 2 years, it needs to happen. Fortunately, I think we have a financial deadline that is going to push it forward, but the community really needs it. The sections that are done are wonderful and pleasant to use. And so anyway, thank you for your testimony and for your continued support.
Mahalo, Chair, and happy holidays to all.
Staff, any other testifiers?
Chair, the next and currently last individual signed up to testify is Audrey Lester.
Oh, let me turn my light on. Good morning, Council, and thank you for letting me testify. After listening to Mike, I think he captured most of what I wanted to say. I'm a member of the KCA, and I also live on Ka'ona Street. And I just wanted to say how important this connector road is, especially to our community. You know, my husband and I, we're living in Portland, and, we could get around quite easily, but it's very difficult for us to go further south. And this connector road is it will be a huge asset to the community from a walkability point of view. And with the high school on Kulaniakau, the students coming from the north, they'll have a much safer way to get to school. So I look forward to it as a way to be able to walk around through town, because right now we're pretty isolated. We've taken some of the, South Kihei and Pi'ilani, and they're really unsafe, in my opinion, for pedestrians. And, giving us a way to move around through town would be much healthier for us as well. And then just to kind of pipe in on the electric bicycle part, I don't know what other people will think about it or what the community opinion will be. Having traveled in London and in the Netherlands, where, in the Netherlands, the bikers actually rule. I think seeing all the kids, getting out of school and jumping on their electric bikes and going home, I think electric bicycles and other types of electric assisted devices will make it a lot more appealing to the kids to get their way to school on their own. And of course, kids are kids, but I'm sure when we were walking around and the kids got out of school and they were just, everybody was just taking off, it was a little chaos to begin with, but as a pedestrian, I didn't find it to be a problem. So that's just my experience. But I really appreciate the council continuing to push this through. Of course, the section that goes from the Gulch to Ka'ona is key for making this, a true connector to the north part of Kihei. And so I guess what I wanted to add was to continue to try to push the second phase through as fast as possible, because I think that's going to really be the part that makes a big difference.
Thank you, Ms.
So again, I wanted to thank the council. This is a big project, and there's look forward to it coming to fruition. I think it's just getting it past the final hurdles. So and I wanted to thank the MH for all the work they're doing, and the Department of Public Works. It's an exciting project for the community.
Members, any clarifying questions for the testifier?
I think Mike said it all.
Member Kama, can you turn your camera on, or we're going to have to recess?
Chair Member Sinensi turned his camera on, so we now have 5 members present.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for doing that. So members, any clarifying questions for our testifier? Seeing none, thank you very much. And let's all push forward to make this project a reality. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Councilman.
Staff, any other testifiers?
Chair, there are currently no individuals signed up to testify at this time. We'll do a last call. 3, 2, 1. Chair, there are no individuals signed up to testify.
Members, seeing there are no individuals wishing to testify without objection, I will now close oral testimony on Y17.
No objection.
Members, and of course, written testimony will be continued to be accepted. Members, I'm proposing 2 rounds of 3 minutes per member. Any objections? Nope. Okay. Thank you, members. I would like to now open the floor for questions and discussion, starting with Vice Chair Sugimura, who is currently absent, Councilmember Kama, who is currently absent, Councilmember Paulton.
Hey, Mr. Yagin. how many properties do we need to acquire, or portions of property still yet?
That's a good question. I don't have the count with me. Maybe, okay. Hi, Tessa. I'll defer to Tessa from Munikyo Hiraga.
Oh, okay. Sorry, go ahead, Tessa.
Aloha Council members, Tessa Munikyo Ing from Munikyo Hiraga. So in total, there's about 38 properties that will require a temporary right of entry, permanent easement, or partial land acquisition. Those land rights will not, processes will not start until the EA is complete next year, and it'll start with the process of a cash offer letter to the owners. What has proceeded in advance of that is requesting letters of authorization from these 38 owners for the county to apply for the special management area use permit, because a requirement of the SMA permit is to have written authorization from all of the affected properties to apply for the permit. So that process has been ongoing, and to date, we have, let me just make sure I have the right list here. We've received 25 letters of authorization so far, missing 13 letters. So those are the final 13 that we need to have clearance to be able to proceed with filing the SMA permit application. So that's kind of where things stand.
Are you aware of the 13 outstanding, if they're owner occupant or non-owner occupant, or what the status if they live on island?
It's a mix. 7 of them are from the Kamali'i Elena subdivision. And so the project team with the Department of Public Works and the engineering firm, Warren Une Mori Engineering, and ourselves have been continuing outreach with them, having individual meetings. KCA was kind enough to also coordinate a meeting with some of the homeowners. So there's been ongoing coordination and effort to try to get these. I think the majority of them are actually do reside on island. And I think the understanding is that if some of these owners do not sign the letter of authorization, if the county is gonna also then proceed with the land rights in the new year after the EA is complete with the cash offer letter. But if the negotiations of the land rights are not successful, then the county is prepared to proceed with eminent domain proceedings, and with that, then that would allow the SMA to be filed without a letter of authorization.
Oh shoot! So the 13 remaining require eminent domain. Would require eminent domain. It's not just easements or temporary right of way.
It's a combination, and Nolly can jump in as well, but the cash offer letters have not been presented yet, so it is still possible that they could agree, but to date we have not had authorization for the SMA specifically.
Thank you. I think I heard the bell.
Thank you. Members? Member Rollins Fernandez, do you have questions?
Mahalo, Chair. I guess I will ask Mr. Moran's question regarding the use of motorized vehicles in the new section. You heard his question, yeah?
Yes, I heard his question. Thanks for the question. So the regulations in place for the existing section, we would naturally extend it to this new section. His comment about e-bikes and how they're handled, that's something that we would need to discuss with the enforcement agencies, so like police, since they have a better feel for, I guess, what type of signage we would need and how we would go about supporting their enforcement activities. So, in short, we hope to put some controls, some safety controls on that section of multi-use path as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, mahalo for that clarification. And then I kind of heard so motorized, and then I heard some like speed. On Molokai, we have some of the senior citizens that use the Rascal, the motorized. I don't know if it's motorized wheelchair-ish, but they use, they can't drive, so they use that to go to the store. Is that something that is allowed on the current path?
Yeah, so we would, so devices like those, I think they're like, I forgot the term, personal assistive device but I know what you're referring to, but they're allowed on sidewalks, and so they would be okay as well on this multi-use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I don't think they go very fast. Maybe like 10 miles per hour or something. Not like e-bikes and scooters.
Yeah.
And the e-scooters go really fast. They're fun. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you, and if I can get.
Sorry, what was that, Chair?
No, thank you. I had to clear the screen because it was doing that scan thing, so I couldn't see anybody. Chair Lee, I see, there you are. Do you have questions?
Okay, I just wanted to know from Mr. Yagan, could you repeat what the total anticipated cost will be?
Yes, so our current estimate is in the range of what, 50 to 55 million.
And that's to finish a little over a mile?
This estimate is actually for the first phase of this segment. So this segment is, I have the distance, so less than half a mile.
So how much for half a mile? 50 million?
We're in the range of about 50 million at this time.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Members of NC?
Thank you, Chair. I was just curious if, are there any gulches within the connector road that would either require like a bridge construction, or I know some areas where there are streams, you just kind of go through the stream because they're intermittent streams.
Yes, so there for this section of the project, there are actually two major gulches, Waipuilani Gulch and Kulani Hakoi. And so they are intermittent, but I guess in the past, when they do flow, they do flow pretty full. And so these are major crossings for this project. In this first phase of the project, there will be one, that's Waipuilani Gulch.
Okay, and then for Kulani Hakoi, I know that there's is there an access from the existing road to approach and go over Kulani Hakoi Street?
So the second phase will require a bridge as well. Right now, there's really just a footpath, I guess, the way people use it.
Okay, all right, and then the Connect South the North-South Connector Road is also included in the MPO STIP. It's one of the projects.
Yes, Councilmember Sinesi, it is identified in the current STIP.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
I want to welcome back Member Kama and ask if she has any questions for our resource.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to ask just a couple of questions. One, the presentation said that there were going to be some roundabouts. How many roundabouts are there going to be?
Thank you, Councilmember Kamo. So for this, the overall segment between Waipuilani to Ka'ono'ulu, a total of 3 roundabouts are proposed. So I'll let the major intersections. For this phase, it'll be 2, Waipuilani Street and Kulani Hakuai Street.
Okay. And then, you're doing this in phases. How many phases do you anticipate doing this? Because this is phase 1, right? The first half mile.
Yes, so this segment will be done in 2 phases.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the phase 1 that we're talking about right now for half a mile is the cost of 50 million, what is the cost for the other half a mile? Because it's 1 whole mile, right? The 2 phases.
Yeah, so as we as we develop the project, I recall the figure for the second phase at a little less than this phase, mainly due to the length of the bridge crossing. It's maybe just a little bit shorter, I believe, but still kind of in that range. Yeah.
So when do you anticipate the completion of phase 1, and then when do you anticipate completion of phase 2?
So based on the construction start of, say, fiscal year 27, we're looking at construction for phase 1 to be about 18 months plus. So 29 for completion or opening of the first phase. As far as the next phase, that's something that we're trying to coordinate in our budget, in our future plans as well. So at this time, we can only give a time frame of probably after 2030.
Okay, so then my last question is, this project has been on the books since the 80s. What takes so long for that to occur? Because now we're looking at the completion of this maybe sometime, well, we're not sure, right? But at least phase 1, 2029. So I'm just thinking, how much more longer do we need to wait, and what's that going to be like?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. So that's this project has been in different design, I guess, criteria throughout the years, and so at one point it was a 4-lane road actually was proposed at one point, which wasn't really warmly received, and so there was some issues with keeping this roadway on the master plans, and as it became more important to be more context sensitive, and so it goes, all of a sudden the design goes on to like a 2-lane roadway with the community's wishes, and so master plans need to be updated. And then, of course, there's funding issues. And so all of that just played to a pretty long delay. So at this point, this is the closest we've been to moving forward with this road. And it's at a pretty good point right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Kama. Members, any other questions? Member Paulton?
Thank you. Just following up on Member Kama's question, and I know it's after the fact and late. We're not going to do anything about it now, but I was wondering in the 80s, I don't know if those 38 properties or the rest of the properties were houses and stuff back then, but was there efforts made when it was first envisioned to secure the right-of-way or the easements or the properties that were needed?
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Paulton. I believe there were some efforts to try and secure the right-of-way. So things like designating easements with subdivisions back when they were approved. So that was reserving the right-of-way was put into play as well. And so there were efforts, but as far as individual efforts with residences, not from my knowledge, there weren't many extensive efforts at that point, mainly just overall planning efforts.
Mm. And then going forward into the next phase, is there a lot of easements that needs to be secured still yet as well?
There are quite a few easements, and so we've actually started the outreach with those residences as well. So they've been kept in the loop through this process, and so they understand that the phase that affects them will be coming along as well.
Mm. And the 13 that Ms. Munekio had said is still outstanding. Is there do they understand that it's trying to benefit all of them that live alongside of it to have a alternate route for when it floods and things like that? Or I guess I can't understand why people don't want it in its current form, or is it that they just don't want to give up any piece of what they own?
So the reasons we've shared all of the benefits on this project with them, especially like the emergency route, the emergency serve purpose.
I mean, like, what if there's a fire and they need a way out? You know?
Exactly. And then so the reasons for kind of going against the project, they vary. Everything from personal reasons to they don't want it. Basically, what they have right now is peace and quiet. And of course, when you introduce a road, you introduce some vehicle noise as well. So they like that current environment they're in, and they don't want it to change.
A lot of people in Lahaina felt the same way until they died.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so their reasons are very varying.
Okay. But the eminent domain would be possible for safety as an additional evacuation route.
Yeah, so that process is, I mean, from the beginning, it's not a process that we would look to, but at this point, we feel that the road is important, and so we are gearing up for that process as we finish up environmental.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, before Chair asks final questions, are there any other desire for another round of questions? Thank you. So my question, $50 million sounds like an awful lot of money for half a mile, but am I correct that consists of 2 bridges and 2 roundabouts?
So for this phase, that 50 million covers one fairly large bridge crossing, 2 roundabouts, the roadway, some drainage improvements, and there are these transmission lines that are currently on wood poles, and so some of that cost will also go to upgrading those systems to more wind resistant. So I believe they're hurricane resistant type poles, and we've always shared it as an overall benefit to the roadway and the area as well.
Thank you. So although it's a relatively, it sounds like a short distance, there's a lot of complexity and cost in this particular length of road.
There is a lot, and part of the improvements I forgot to mention, there are things like reclaimed water line. There are some aging water infrastructure in the area that we need to look at as well.
Well, thank you. Anything that we can do to, I believe, I'm speaking for, as a representative from South Maui, anything that the community can do to facilitate, and speaking as a council member, anything I can do to help facilitate the department to move forward. The section that has been completed is a remarkable addition to the community. It's a wonderful, I think that's also part of the cost, is it's not simply a road. It's a multi-path, landscaped, community artery. And I just want to thank the department's persistence on it. I want to encourage it and cheer it on. And hopefully I'll still have hair when we get it done. So.
Chair, Member Paulton did have, Chair Lee did have a question.
Chair Lee, I acknowledge you for your question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just thought of something. You know, for $50 million, is it possible to actually start on the highway that was never really, I don't know, proceeded with? It was above, parallel and above Pi'ilani, rather than going below, which is the north-south collector road. What about the highway above? Because with the north-south collector road, you end up in a logjam, right? Yeah, well, the new highway would have a brand new escape route. Is that correct, Mr. Yagin?
Yeah, I mean, so there have been, I guess, some pre-planning of a future highway above Pilani Highway. Again, to do that, there haven't been anything like securing right of way. So it would almost be starting from scratch again. And so the cost to do that and to go through all the zoning processes and acquisition processes, and the cost to, we'll still cross those same notches.
Okay, Mr. Yagin, what about, because I'm thinking escape routes, right? Escape alternatives. I don't think the north-south collector road would necessarily provide that, but it'll help with the circulation of traffic. But as far as escape routes, what about the road that goes up to, connects to Pukalani or Kula?
Chair Lee, I see.
Chair, if I may.
I see Member Director Molina available to answer the question. Director Molina.
Thank you, Chair. Just to re-clarify, where this project came from, this has been a community plan project for a long time. The road you mentioned is not in any community plan, so Public Works as an implementing agency, our first charge is to follow the plans that are on the books. I know there is some contemplation in the upcoming South Maui Community Plan update about that bypass road, so that could become of our plans. And then just to clarify that those are two different intents, yeah? If you build a road above the highway, all these neighborhoods near the north-south collector road don't really get to benefit from that because there's no access to that road. So you'd be providing this bypass function, but that doesn't give you the connectivity within the community between residents and commercial areas that this road is serving. So there's two different objectives being discussed right now. Thank you.
Right, I realize that. But, we weren't faced with a fire a couple of years ago to where people were trapped. So that's why I bring up the subject. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Yagi. Is there any further questions? If not, Members, if there are no objections, the chair would like to thank everybody and defer this item.
No
No
objections, Chair.
objections.
Anybody? Thank you, members. Staff, any additional work that needs to be addressed?
Chair, there's no further business before your committee. Thank you.
Okay. Members, this concludes today's Water and Infrastructure Committee meeting. Thank you, Director Molina, Bowers and Kubota, Monokio and Haraga for being here this morning. I would like to give a big thank you all to the committee members for your hard work during this council term. I hope everyone enjoys the holidays, and I hope everyone will see each other in the new year. The time is now 11:36 a.m., and this meeting is now adjourned.